On this week's episode of WWE Raw, Riddle, Keith Lee, and the phenomenal AJ Styles took each other on in a fantastic triple threat clash to determine who faces Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship next. At the end of the match, it was AJ Styles who was determined to be the next opponent for Drew McIntyre and his WWE Championship, and honestly, few can complain about the said outcome. But why he was chosen ahead of the rest of the stacked entire Raw roster is a question many are asking. We shall answer the question for you, across 5 points in this video. Welcome back to Wrestling Flash. If you are new, be sure to like and subscribe for more wrestling content. Without wasting any time, let's get into today's video. We mean this with all the love, respect, and admiration in the world for Sheamus, someone who has been a mainstay in WWE for many years now. Nobody will ever buy into the idea of him as a babyface, because he's a great heel. Sheamus and Drew McIntyre may seem like they are on the same page right now, but even a blind man can see that a feud between them is on the horizon. But that is not a story that can be told overnight, so Drew McIntyre vs. Sheamus needs time to build, and until then, AJ Styles and Drew McIntyre can wage a war of their own. Listen, on paper, Drew McIntyre vs. Sheamus does not really sound like the most exciting feud at all. But who would have thought that Roman Reigns vs. Jey Uso would have been as good as it eventually was, right? When the betrayal from Sheamus does happen, people will want to see Drew McIntyre kick his rear end. SK Wrestling had a chance to catch up with Drew McIntyre not long ago, and he was very vocal about wanting to face AJ Styles, something that he has said on a variety of occasions already. In fact, in another interview with Wrestle Talk, Drew McIntyre had outlined why he wants a match against AJ Styles. The number one, I guess I would say, is AJ Styles. It happened again. I don't know what the deal is with him and I. We're always like ships in the night, we keep missing each other. Be it, I'm away from WWE, I got to Impact Wrestling. He's going, we're both doing independent shows, it can't quite work out, or he's on or I'm off, or he's off. He comes back to WWE, I come back to WWE. We're both on Raw and we're both bad guys, but finally, I'm a good guy and he's a bad guy. It's going to happen. He disappears to SmackDown, so I guess we'll have to wait for that match still. And now, the match is finally happening. One has to assume that Drew McIntyre, as WWE Champion, campaigned for a match against AJ Styles and his request was heard and approved. There are very few big men that are as agile or as nimble on their feet as Drew McIntyre is, and well, many consider AJ Styles to be the Shawn Michaels of our generation. A match between AJ Styles and Drew McIntyre will not just appeal to casual fans, but also to the hardcore audience that appreciates in-ring work. The main criticism leveled at WWE's main roster is how WWE Raw and SmackDown don't necessarily have matches that are as solid as the ones in NXT are, but with two extraordinary performers like AJ Styles and Drew McIntyre, that should not really be a problem. Plus, after his recent performance against Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre has set the benchmark very high and will need a performer of that caliber to keep his momentum going over the long haul. Is there anyone better suited for the role than AJ Styles, a man who can have a 5-star match with a broomstick? There are two central wild cards in the Drew McIntyre vs. AJ Styles feud, and they are Styles' giant associate and The Miz. One has to pop for the idea that AJ Styles wants The Miz to cash in because he believes that The Miz will be a weaker opponent than Drew McIntyre is, so there are many comedic moments possible. And then there's the question of Big Amos, who may be one of the largest men to have ever stepped into a WWE ring, who's been portrayed as a close associate of AJ Styles. Everyone wants to see him perform, so a program of this magnitude will actually allow him to ease his way into the ring at some point down the line. As exciting as the in-ring aspect of Drew McIntyre vs. AJ Styles is, these two wild cards just make the feud 1,000 times more interesting. And it is possible that we will get to see AJ Styles versus his close associate. WWE may be trying to redo the Shawn Michaels and Diesel storyline, whereby Diesel was Shawn Michaels' associate and ended up turning his back on Michaels. We might even get to see AJ Styles win the WWE Championship at TLC only to get challenged by the big guy.